I did not think that I would make it to 30. Hey y'all, I completely forgot to film an intro for this video, but the title is exactly what it says. It's a get ready with me while I talk about how I have been grieving or got through the process of grieving the loss of a parent. So if that's something you're interested in, please stick around, and if it's not, that's okay too, baby. Before we start, I want to say what we are about to talk about can be a little triggering if you have experienced, death of a family member, specifically death of a parent. Just a little warning before we get into it. Take care of yourself. If this is too much for you, I will see you in the next video. Doing this video, literally talking about this came to me last night, and it's interesting that it did because this is something that I've never really talked about. Obviously, not publicly, which I don't have a lot of conversations publicly, but I feel like I've had this conversation with a very small amount of people, basically none. My dad died in 2010, which was the same year that I graduated high school and then went to college, started, my college journey. I don't want to say it wasn't a surprise when he passed because he was sick for a good amount of time, but I feel like when it comes to the passing of a loved one, it's not something you can necessarily prepare yourself for. At least, let me speak for myself, girl. At that age, I'm 17, about to turn 18. It wasn't something I could prepare myself for. And it wasn't something that I was prepared for, by my dad or my mom. I knew my dad was sick, but I don't think I kind of knew that he was sick, girl. And I'm really grateful for the time that I did get to spend with my dad. The 17 years that I did get to spend with him. But I feel like losing, a parent at that age is pretty early, I feel like that's kind of before you really get to know yourself. And there's so many questions that I had for him, even around that time, that I wish I could have asked. And I didn't think to ask before because I was younger, that obviously I didn't get to ask him because, he was no longer here. So I feel like at times feel robbed, girl, I'm having boy problems, or I don't understand boys. I feel like my dad would be the best person to talk to this about. And me and my dad were really close. I was a daddy's girl for real, very close. I would call him whenever I was distraught, girl. I would definitely call my daddy, okay? And he would listen and then try to fix the problem or calm me down, okay? So not being able to do that as I got older, and I probably felt like I needed it more, was a little, it was crazy. And it was obviously very sad at sometimes, because it was definitely times where I wanted to pick up my phone and just call my dad. And I realized doing my makeup and kind of talking about a serious subject like this is kind of it seems like it can kind of take away the importance of what I'm saying, or the importance of it. But really, I appreciate doing something while talking about it because I'm able to kind of let my mind have something to do other than cry or something, which is okay. but we're gonna try not to do that. My dad died in 2010. He was able to see me graduate high school. He was at my high school graduation, which was really nice. Really glad that he was able to see me do that, even though that's not something, I mean, he, of course, like always knew that that's something that I would do, but it was just nice that, you know, he was there for that. But this was a time where I was going into college. And you know, going into college, you have a little bit more freedom than you have like when you're in high school. Because, well, for me, I started off in community college. I started taking classes at community college, and then I transferred to a university. Well, really a couple universities, but that's not the point. And right after, you know, my dad died and everything, like, I didn't really talk about it with anybody. I don't think I actually started talking about it until kind of recently. Like, if you think about the span it's been, like within the last 4 years, have I actually started to speak about it and like how I feel and how it's kind of like affected me. But prior to that, it was something that happened, and you know, everybody knew that it happened, and some people would like acknowledge it, like, oh, I miss your dad. Like, that's usually what I would hear, like, oh, I miss your dad, I loved your dad, you look just like your dad. But it was never like, oh, let's talk about like, oh yeah, your dad died, you know, how do you feel about that? Like, it's okay to feel some type of way about that. You know, I never had that conversation with anybody. And looking back on it, you know, I feel like that obviously would have helped a lot if I did have that conversation, because I really didn't know what to do with my emotions. As a kid, I was kind of taught to hide my emotions and to not acknowledge them. You know, of course, at the time, I didn't know this, but you know, that definitely impacted the way that I dealt with my dad's death, and it impacts the way I maneuver in, you know, till this day. Girl, we still fighting the good fight to kind of like get over that. But at the time, you know, I knew I was sad, but I didn't really like acknowledge it. And of course, I was coping in ways I probably should not have been coping in. And again, being a young girl, 17, fresh out of high school, being introduced into new things, like, you know, things were available. And I'm glad, I am glad, baby, that I didn't get anything too crazy where today I'm like strung out on the street somewhere. Because that absolutely could have happened. Like, I experienced something that was definitely very traumatic for me and could have caused me to really just like go out on the deep end. One thing I do regret though is going straight into like college, like after my dad died. Like, I do feel like I should have took a break, because it's like I wasn't really able to focus, and the things the thing I was focusing on really wasn't like serving me. And last night when I was like thinking about this video and kind of just like thinking about how, you know, losing one of my parents like really affected me. I was like, you know, I had a hoe phase. Now that I think about it, I don't necessarily think I had a hoe phase because, and again, not that anything's wrong with that and that I'm trying to like say, anyway, girl, let me tell my story, my yeah. But now that I think about it, I don't know if it was necessarily a hoe phase. Like, I wasn't, let me do my brows and I'll be back with you. I wasn't actively going out trying to have relations with people. Like, that wasn't my goal. Like, really, I could care less about it. It wasn't something that that moved me for real. I do think that I allowed a lot of things because I thought I was supposed to, and like I didn't really care for real. Like, I don't really feel like I cared, and I would put myself in certain situations with people knowing these people was a little crazy and that they would do crazy things, but I would still allow it. And I'm speaking like, I feel like kind of broadly. So like, for example, girl, I had this friend, this guy friend, and he wasn't really a friend, obviously. First, our friendship actually kind of seemed like a friendship, but it started off kind of weird because he was actually the friend of one of my boyfriends. He would like listen to me complain about him and basically like tell me, you know, he didn't know why I wanted to be with him and stuff. And early on, I don't know if I caught on that he liked me, but yeah, actually I definitely did not. I thought we was literally just friends, girl. But he definitely liked me from the beginning. But that's how our friendship started. He was like a really good friend, supposedly, of my boyfriend. And, you know, at first, we would just hang out and we would like smoke together. And that was it. And at one point, he actually was like talking to a friend of mine. So, like, you know, I never really thought that he would check for me. But I don't think he started until we both moved to the Bay Area. And obviously, me moving to the Bay Area, like, I didn't really know anybody. So, having someone that actually lived pretty close to me, like, within 15 minutes of driving, that I already knew prior to, like, I feel like we kind of grew a little bit closer, and that's when he let on that he liked me. I never liked him like that. Like, I really liked him as a friend. And I know it's kind of silly to say and like kind of like naive or whatever, but like, you know, I've never had a brother. I always wanted a brother. So I feel like, you know, not that I was like looking for that, but if I had found that with someone, or if I could have that with someone, of course I'm going to have that. Like, I feel like that's cool if you can find, you know, a familial type bond with somebody. Like, of course you should like nourish that or be willing to have that, you know, especially as Black people, girl. We call people our cousins that's not our cousins, brothers, you know, we do that. So I thought naively that is what was happening, but it was not, unfortunately. This did not happen quickly either. Like, this happened, and it's kind of scary to like talk about because I'm like sitting back and thinking about it, but this happened over a course of time. It's like it gradually built up or whatever. Once I found out that, you know, he liked me, and, you know, I let him know, like, you know, I don't like you like that. Like, I still want us to have like a relationship or what have you, but like, you know, I don't like you like that. We still kept hanging out, and like he was like not trying to make it weird or whatever, but eventually it did become weird. It became very weird. Because he couldn't take a no for a no, and that ended up becoming like a, you know, SA situation. Unfortunately, this wasn't the first time that this has happened to me. So I think, you know, that definitely like affected the way that, you know, I reacted, and I kind of swept it away or whatever. Like when it happened, I was upset, and you know, I was like, I'm not talking to this person no more or whatever. But I allowed this person to make me believe that it wasn't that I gave consent, basically. Which I did not. I didn't, girl. But I allowed this person to be back in my life, and that wasn't the last time something like that would happen. Telling that story, even though I didn't like go into detail, obviously, like, but I'm just using that to say, I feel like, you know, during this period of my life, I was a little reckless. And again, I wasn't like going out, well, kind of was, because I mean, I wasn't going out looking for this stuff, but like I was definitely allowing it to happen, and like allowing this stuff to be around me. And you know, I really can't blame it all on grieving, because, you know, again, this wasn't the first like SA experience that I have had personally. So it was something that I had been taught to normalize, you know? So it's not surprising that when it happens again in the future, that I would normalize that person being around me, because that's something that I have seen in the past, and I've not been taught that that's okay. Now I know that's not okay, but in the moment, I feel like that mixed with grief and just kind of not giving a damn, I let that slide. It's been 14 years since my dad passed, and it doesn't feel like it. Definitely still feels very new. Very fresh, girl. And I think it will always kind of feel that way. You know, my dad was really special, and not only to me, but a lot of people. He really just had this thing about him. Like, I don't know what it was, girl, but he just had like this thing about him, and it really, like, I feel like made people gravitate towards him, and, you know, like, want to know him. He was so smart, like, girl, I would call him to help me with my homework. Funny, smile, would light up a room. His energy really would just light up a room. Just a special dude. And I'm really honored when people that knew him like compare me to him, even if it's just looks. And I think it's special that I feel like, you know, I'm kind of, you know, carrying on his legacy or what have you, but it's definitely still hard. There's still times where I want to pick up the phone and get my dad's opinion about something, or ask him about something. When a certain movie come out and it's something that I know he would have liked, I'll be like, oh my God, I would have took him to that. Like, so I'm saying this to say, like, if you are currently grieving, you've experienced the death of a parent or, you know, a close family member, a loved one. It's hard. It's absolutely hard. And I can't say that it's gonna get easier. I don't think it's gonna necessarily get easier, but I do feel like the way that it feels will be more manageable. You will find ways to basically have a new normal. Because, you know, to be quite honest, to be very quite honest, you know, when you lose someone who was so like instrumental in your life, it's kind of hard to just move on. You know, like you move on, but you're moving on because you've accepted, like you haven't accepted it, but you found a new way to kind of like live. Like, I know that sounds like a little crazy, a little intense, but it's real. Like, you find new ways to cope, new ways like to do things that you used to do that may have included that person. So I don't think it necessarily gets easier because you're still going to feel that pain. Like, you're not going to forget, but you may no longer be crying yourself to sleep at night. I don't know if that makes sense, because honestly it doesn't make sense. I think it shows and it speaks kind of to how long grief can last. The fact that I'm just now kind of able to step back and look at this as a whole 14 years later. That's low-key a whole person. If I had had a baby 14 years ago, that little nigga would be like in high school, right? Like, that's a long period of time. So to just now be able to kind of look at how this has affected me, it's not like my dad died and that was just it. No, it's like I kind of was like numb for a long time. For a long time, girl. Literally acting out of like it almost feels like I was being maneuvered. Like somebody's in there, I was in there, like on what's the movie with all the emotions? Yo, oh my god, what is it called, girl? With Riley in there. Anyways, it felt like somebody was in my brain, literally like, I cannot speak, oh my god. Someone was in my brain, literally like making all the decisions for me, and like, I was kind of just going. There's a lot of periods of my life that I look back on and I try to remember what happened, and I just can't remember. The memory is gone. Was I even there? And you know, that's really common in people who have depression. Like, just not remembering things, like not remembering huge chunks of time. I'm talking about years, months. I'm not talking about not remembering a specific instance, not remembering a time period. Like, baby, I was depressed, down, like definitely like functioning depression, barely functioning. Because when I tell you that, like, college whooped my ass because I didn't have the right tools, because I didn't know really what was going on with me. Like, I should have been in therapy. I should have been in therapy the year my dad passed, and I wasn't. So I wasn't properly equipped to be having the stress of college on me on top of all the other stress that I had. So baby, when I tell you college almost took me out, it almost took me out completely. I am not playing. Girl, I wish I was in therapy at that time. I feel like my life, oh my God, my life would be so different if I went to therapy right after my dad passed. Oh my gosh. I mean, I needed therapy before that, but I definitely needed therapy after. And if I would have done it, I can't imagine like what would be different, how I would be different. And you know, I'm grateful for the experiences I have. I'm definitely grateful to still be here, because to be quite honest, I did not think that I would make it to 30. I did not think it was necessary for me to even think ahead that long, because girl, I didn't think I would be here. So, you know, I'm grateful to still be here and to still want to be here. You know, I feel like that's huge as well. I've unknowingly struggled with depression for most of my life, and I still do. I've got a little bit better at coping with it, and you know, recognizing the signs of, you know, when I am in that mode. But when I tell you, I am actually proud of myself. I am not where I want to be in life at this moment, and I don't know when I will be. But regardless, I am proud of me, because if don't nobody know, I know what I've been through. And I may forget sometimes, like literally will forget things that have happened, and my mind will randomly remember. Girl, I could be drinking the best latte I done made in months, and I'll just have a random thought of some crazy shit that happened. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't remember that happened. But my life can be completely different. Okay, I could be a lot of things because of the things that I have been through. Like I came through. I'm still making my way, but you know, I can't believe like I survived, you know? And I didn't even want to say survive, like I'm a survivor. I didn't want to say that, but I did. Like, you know, let's give props when they're due. I hope this video is not all over the place. I didn't write a script. Like, I didn't know exactly what it was that I wanted to say. Like, I felt it on my spirit. Like, truly, not even playing with y'all. I felt like, you know, this was something that I, you know, needed to talk about. Like, not even just for me, but, you know, in everything that I post on my channel, I primarily make content for myself. Like, I do it because I enjoy it. I like it. If I'm doing a product review, it's because like I like that product, or you know, I really just like buying shit. Okay, let's be honest. I like things. I like trying things, especially like beauty and, you know, stuff like that. I like that type of stuff. So like, you know, that's why I choose to share it. But also, if, you know, there's someone that I can help, or like let them know like they're not having these type of emotions by themselves, I feel like I have accomplished something, or, you know, I have done what it is that I'm here to do. When dealing with like grief and depression, that powder is dark. You know, it's really easy to feel alone, to feel lonely, especially if you're around people who have never felt that before, people who aren't willing to speak about it. And honestly, that's why I think it's really important to go to therapy, so you can talk about those emotions and like get them out. Girl, that carpet better be motherfucking clean with all that damn noise they making. I know this is more of like a serious video, but everything is not hee kiki, you know? Sometimes you gotta get into it. You gotta get into the weeds of it all. If you don't, girl, you forever gonna be in the cycle. All right, you gotta address some things, and I'm telling you, but I'm also telling me. And you know, there's things you can do besides therapy. There's a lot of like support groups online. You know, be careful, don't join a cult, girl. But there's support groups online. There's books you can read. You do not have to sit in your grief by yourself. Of course, give yourself time to actually grieve, but you do not have to sit in it, girl. Nobody talks about it, but doing your makeup in front of bright lights is hard. And if you're not someone, you know, who is dealing with grief, and you know someone who is, you know, just recognize that it can be a very difficult time, difficult emotions to process. You know, that person may not even really know how they feel. So just be patient. Don't be trying to push them to do things or talk about, you know, things. Just let them be, but don't just leave them be. But, you know, let them be with a watchful eye, you know? I wouldn't wish the death of a loved one on anyone. Not an enemy, not nobody. It is, it's a painful thing. And especially painful because you know eventually you're gonna experience it. Like, it's something we're all gonna experience. Okay, I managed to put my lashes on. Hopefully they don't look crooked, because baby, when I tell you putting lashes on for me is the hardest part of the makeup. Should we do a middle? Should probably do a side part. Oh, sister. Alright, y'all, so that is our finished look. And that is the end of our conversation. I hope that that wasn't too much for y'all. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for rocking with me. And, you know, take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.